Howdy, howdy,
Howdy!
howdy. That's what Erik said.
Part 3 of our hour-long session, and we are going to talk. I mean, Erik, you can suggest something else if you like, but people are interested in your various past lives. Maybe you want to share like 3 of the most interesting ones and how they. I shouldn't say past lives because they're all happening concurrently, but past, present, future. But tell us about some that you think we could learn from, and or at least understand you better through.
Okay. Well, as you were asking the question, he's like, "No, Mom, I'm good with that." Before you even finished asking the question about whether or not he wanted to do it,
You just like to talk about yourself.
So, he said, "Not really, Mom."
I know.
Okay, so what kind of lives do you want to talk about, Erik? He's like, He's like, there's so many.
Well, how many have you got going on? Such a multitasker.
He's doing this. Like, He's like, there's lots of them, Mom. On Earth, there's a few thousand.
Whoa.
Really? You got that many? Show off.
No, overachiever.
He just gave me the finger.
Oh, Erik. You didn't learn that from me.
No.
Or did he?
He said, I'm not telling.
Yeah.
So you got lives on other planets too? Oh, lots of lives. Okay, well, we won't go into that because we need to answer the question.
True.
So lives. What kind of lives? He said there was one life that was very influential where I was a father. I had a daughter, and that daughter died because of my neglect.
What happened?
He left her. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. So this was like in the 1700s, like when 1700s, he said, when like we had just come to no, this wasn't the States. Where was this? You're confusing me. Like where? Well, I don't think Transylvania exists anymore, but like it's in that area.
Okay.
Right. So he was a father.
Like Romania. I think it's like around Romania.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
So his wife had died. He was trying to take care of his daughter. He put her outside. He went around the house because he was going to grab some firewood. He came back around and she was gone. And he found her later about 800 yards from the house. She had been killed by like wolves.
Oh, so the wolves got her?
Yeah.
How old was she?
4.
Oh, I knew it was going to be 4 for some reason. Oh, that must have devastated you.
And he said, oh, Mom, it was horrific.
Oh.
Horrific. He said, I didn't live much longer after that.
Why?
Because
what happened to you?
He said, I couldn't bear what had happened.
Yeah.
I took so much responsibility for that.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was my fault. I as a human being, I felt like I should not have left her even for a second. But I was only gone for a minute. But he says, I learned in life that you just can't control everything.
Is that the big lesson that you took away from that life?
He said, that's absolutely right.
And how does that translate into my Erik and his life?
I couldn't control how I felt, how my body was built. I couldn't control that. I wanted to most of the time when I was aware of it, but I couldn't control it. And he's just like getting like emotional. He says, and it's difficult. He says, I'm getting emotional not because I'm still carrying that weight. It's because I'm connecting with what that energy felt like, he said. And so I'm projecting that to you.
Yeah.
But he says I couldn't control it. And there's so many people in this life they get ill with something, or they lose a child or a husband or wife or some other family member and friend. And they think, why didn't I just call them like that day? Because maybe, if there was something that could have been done, maybe that call would have stopped it. But he said, with my daughter, it would have happened anyway. Mm. If I had not walked around the house, it would have happened anyway.
Yeah. Okay. How about another life? Any cheerier ones, please?
Yeah, well, that's totally Erik's MO. He'll do like the really sad one first, and then he'll like go to the funny stuff.
Okay.
So let's hear something else, because that's like making me depressed.
Oh.
He said, "Oh, boo-hoo, dude."
Oh.
He makes me laugh. Oh my God, you should see how we act with each other.
I know, I have seen.
Oh,
he's hilarious.
Oh my God, because like there was a time, I don't mean to get off the topic, but there was a time when I was like walking down the street and Erik was like criticizing my clothes, right? And like I was walking down the street and I heard him say, "Dude, you look like you're wearing a garbage bag." And I said, "What?" And then he said, look in the window," like I was at a store. And so I looked in the store window and I was like, "Oh my God, I do look like I'm wearing a garbage bag."
Oh my God. I'm about to take you out shopping.
Oh Lord. Well, I actually started to think, well, maybe I should wear some better clothes then.
Nah, it's just external stuff.
Yeah.
So another life that made you who you are.
He said, "Let me think."
Or will help us understand you better.
Right. Oh, that's a nice one.
Yay!
So where is this? Aboriginal, like Australia. Like he's Aboriginal. Was this like modern? Like how recent was it? About 70 years ago.
Okay.
He was the skinny little thing, like he was in this life and still is. Very wiry, just like.
Oh, I can just see him.
You're so crazy the way you make me act sometimes. Anyway, I'm like just a puppet. And so anyway, he was just like this all the time, just very dramatic. And like,
really? That's so
and
cute.
everybody loved him because he was just so weird. He was like a kind of empath that like was just sort of like the way he talked about it in another session with like the trolls and, reflecting a person's energy, right?
Yeah.
He acted that way to keep the tribe spirits up.
Oh.
So he was always like dancing around and he'd like make like crazy outfits and things. And like he shows this one thing where he would like cover himself in like mud and like make it to where his eyes were just showing out of the mud. And
oh
they were
my
like
God.
big, and he'd be like, ooh, like that.
So it's like a happy eccentric.
Yeah.
Kind of like he is now. He's
totally.
Trying to lift the spirits of blog members all over the world.
Totally. But he didn't really talk a lot. It was just a lot of like crazy movements and things. And, he spent a lot of time with the children of the tribe. He would spend time with the elders because they needed like a break sometimes. And he was just there to be that kind of energy that was light and playful. And he says, and we talked in another session about play, right? He said, well, that life was meant to teach me and, other people about play, to just let go and just be crazy. Oh my God, just connecting with that life is making me feel that way. I just can't get over how he's like,
Oh, I can just see it. And that's what you're doing now is teaching us how to connect with play. That's pretty cool. What did you do as a living? Is that what you did as a living?
Well, he says, in a lot of cultures and tribal cultures and stuff, everybody's purpose is what it is they're inclined to do, right? He says, if you're inclined to be a hunter, then, you're naturally going to gravitate to that. And the tribe isn't going to force you to be something else, right? It allows you to just be who you are. So for me, that was my purpose, was to be the light, the air, the fun, the play, and all of that.
The wind beneath their wings. So how old were you when you died, and what did you die from?
47.
Okay.
What did you die from? Oh.
Well, how could you be laughing?
It's just funny because the way you put it. He said he got kicked in the nuts by a kangaroo.
Oh, well, that can happen.
Well,
And
yeah, but
testicular torsion. You
I
can
mean,
die
it's
from
like,
that.
I mean, it just looked funny the way he did it because it showed me. I don't mean to laugh because it's terrible, but it's the way he showed it to me. Because it's like he's like acting all crazy, and like this kangaroo is sitting around, and like this kangaroo is sitting around, and it's like he's like messing with it and like irritating it, and then it just turns around and goes whap, and
Oh,
he goes like falling across. He goes like flying because he was a little bitty guy. He like threw
oh,
him back.
that must not have felt good.
Well, it really damaged him. It really did.
Mm,
And it ultimately led to his death. Which,
yeah.
how could that happen? I guess.
Yeah, you could get gangrene and, testicular torsion where it twists so that the vascular supply is cut off, and then it gets gangrenous and you get drive sepsis.
Oh my God. Ew.
Mm.
Well, anyway, it sounds terrible, but it was just funny the way he showed it to me.
Okay, well, let's do one more life before we close. We have very little time left.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so what's another life? Okay, another life. He said I was a teacher.
Like you are now.
Yeah, you were a teacher. So what kind of teacher were you? He said I was a thinker. It's funny because his energy changes. Like when he starts talking about these lines.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's become like very calm and centered and like, well, why don't you project this energy more often?
Oh, boy.
And
Now he's doing the energy
yeah,
instead.
jazz hands.
Most of the time.
Yeah. It's very calm and centered. Like, where did you live? Ancient Greece.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's neat. He was a student of. Was Socrates in Greece?
Uh-huh. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like he was a student of him, but he wasn't like directly working with him. So in other words, so he like read a lot of his stuff,
Mm-hmm.
followed and studied, and then Erik was like a teacher in that way, in that vein, right?
Okay.
So he came up with his own ideas, but he would also build on what others said. He worked in the government.
Who did he teach? Kids, adults? Was it classroom type thing?
It was all kinds of people.
Common Core curriculum?
Not a like a formal thing. Like he shows himself like, okay, like there's a square, like a kind of a common area,
Mm-hmm.
and he would go there and like lecture, and people would crowd around.
Okay.
And he would speak about things. If there was something that was unjust in the society, he would speak on that.
Mm.
He would speak on like getting in touch with your like being. Well, he would put it. He's kind of phrasing it in those terms from that time, but basically in this time, it's talking about being self-aware and aware of your emotions and things like that, of honoring your body, because he said a lot of people during that time period, it was starting to become very what's the word? Just like oblivious to how you need to honor your body and be empathetic towards yourself.
Yeah.
Erik says, you know what I mean by that, Mom? It's like people,
Sure.
they go through a period where they, like when they're teens and in their 20s, where
They
they're
beat
like,
up on themselves.
they beat up on themselves, they get drunk a lot or whatever, and, they, do all kinds of things with their bodies that long-term hurt themselves.
Yeah.
He says, and, they just don't have any awareness of what's to come because of that and the consequences. I was trying to remind people of that, he said. And a lot of philosophy in general. Ultimately, that was at the core of everything I spoke of, he said.
So what happened to you?
I lived to be very old.
Good.
Especially in that time period, it was very old. How old? 92.
Wow, that is old. So you
Very
just died
old.
of natural causes?
Yeah.
Ticker gave out?
What happened? He had hurt his back about 10 years earlier, and it had always bothered him after. Okay, so they couldn't really do much for it, right?
Yeah.
So the way he hurt his back, it's compressed the spine. He got to where, but it didn't happen right away. It's like the more he walked on it, the more the spine got compressed. And then he eventually became where he couldn't walk.
Ugh.
But then he started to lose, I guess he must have, with the way the injury was, he started to lose like bowel and like all
Oh
these
yeah.
things.
Oh no.
It was slow, but he said it wasn't so horrific because I always had my teaching.
Okay.
I didn't focus on what was wrong with me so much. He said, I taught the day that I died. I was
Wow.
in my bed and my students were around me and I was speaking to them.
Hmm.
And then after they left, he said, I was tired and I closed my eyes and
Never open them again.
there you are.
Okay. Very interesting, these three
Yeah,
lives. Thank you
yeah,
so much
very
for
good.
sharing
And
them.
they're awesome. And Eric said, oh, Mom, yeah. He said, you see how they all tie together, right?
Yeah, and each one sort of embodies a certain facet of you.
Yeah. He said, it's about taking on too much responsibility. A lot of people do that and they need to let that go. It's about remembering to play, he said. And at the same time, it's about thinking and philosophizing and getting in touch with that side of yourself that is deeper than just the superficial.
That's right. Sounds
Very
great.
good.
Thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed this. If you did, like and subscribe. If you didn't, just like and subscribe. It's just one click of a button. I'm just kidding. Anyway, thank you, Robert. I love you, and
Yes,
I'll
yes.
see you on
I love you.
Thanksgiving. And
I'll see you.
Eric, I'll see you on Thanksgiving too.
He said, oh, Mom, I'll be there.
Bye.
Bye.